The moment is here.
It's happening. Finally, you've asked for it. We're delivering it.
The unraveling of our decisions on what to main in Season 1 of Dragonflight and what to alt. We have decided on the mains and the alts. Well, one main, one alt. Obviously, we're going to play a lot more because, you know, guides and all of that and TLFs and you know the content already. But it is decided, and we're going to talk about why we picked these classes and specs and what we plan on doing with them, all the reasoning behind it, and all that juicy stuff, and maybe our process of making a decision when it's coming down to making a main for Dragonflight will help you as well. And you can help us by joining the Patreon link in the description after you watch the video. Of course, don't rush it just yet, man. On the Patreon, you can basically support all the content that we do. That's like the biggest reward you can ever get. But we know nothing comes and goes ever for free. So you can also get some nice little cool perks like custom wallpapers with your WoW character. They're really cool. We can pledge for that. You're going to see some examples on the screen. Not to mention, you're going to have access to all the bloopers that we do, all of the Patreon monthly chats that we do. You know, put your feedback over there. But most importantly, you're supporting the Marcelian online content, okay? You're joining the family. You're gonna make it work somehow. So if you're interested, check the link in the description. And now, that out of the way, let's start with Flame.
So talk
Flame.
about mains.
Yeah.
Okay, so my main, which has kind of been spoiled on stream because people have been asking me for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, and fortunately I made a condition that actually was met, so I had to reveal it at one point. My main will be Preservation Evoker.
Oh, shit!
For the first time ever, I will be a healer main in our rating, because that's where it kind of really matters. Why, when we're rating with the guild, we're rating Mythic, we're going for cutting edge this season. I don't know if we're gonna get it,
towards it, yeah.
but we're definitely gonna try harder. And what better way to do the hardest type of progression that I ever did by playing a role I never mained before on a class that I've never played before.
Perfect.
So we're going in deep, boys. We're going in with Preservation. Now,
Why? Why?
Reason? Well, there's a bunch of reasons. First of all, it's obviously the new class, and I wanted a reason to main the new class. And as far as I'm concerned, the best time to main something new is when it's new and fresh, because everybody's figuring it out, and I love the aspect of figuring it out, and you know, being a pioneer into the spec as much as I can be with a limited amount of time into research. Obviously, you know, the 3 crafters and all of those people will be able to, you know, actually get all the stuff out, but it will be pretty much, we all will be starting from the same starting point. Everybody's doing the new stuff, and that's cool, and I really want to be a part of that. That's one aspect. The second aspect of it, it's a dragon, and I love dragons. In all of RPGs, I love dragons. Third thing is that by playing all of it, like the moment I played it, I realized this is the coolest spec that's currently in the game. Obviously, for me, it's very subjective in the way that it is designed. First of all, the Evoker as a class, not necessarily Preservation, is particularly cool in how it does its empowered spells, mobility, the utility kit that it has is pretty cool. And Preservation is basically all the cool, intricate aspects of WoW magic all in one spec. And it just happens to be a healer. You have, you know, bronze time magic from the bronze Dragonflight, all that nose Dormu stuff.
Back to the future.
And you have green magic from Ysera, which kind of reminds you of Mistweaver, Resto Druid, Resto Shaman, that kind of stuff, which are actually surprisingly all healers that I really love to play over the years. And you can bind the two. You have neat interactions. The play styles are awesome. The intricacies are awesome. We also have a podcast on that you can check if you want to, you know, get more in deep with that. And it's really cool. I always like to pick up a challenge, which is why I mained Prot Warrior at the beginning of Sepulchre, because it was supposed to be the weakest tank going into Sepulchre. And I always like to, you know, play the, are you sure you want to play that? That doesn't sound really good spec.
Or it's not meta, man. Why are you playing that?
Yeah, because I'm a little bit messed up in the head. I like Grimrail Depot on Sanguine and Quaking Weeks. So
shoot him. Yeah, shoot him. Come on.
What about you, man?
Well, it's been a conflicting decision because there's like there were two main candidates for it. Obviously, I wanted to go in with Paladin, right? I was super excited to see what they could do with Paladin. We all know how that turned out. And you know, meta or not, it's not about that at all. It's just I didn't find it fun and not to my liking. So I have decided to stick to my other main, which has always been there, which is Rogue. More specifically, Outlaw Rogue. The Outlaw Rogue is, for me, like the craziest spec you can ever play. It's such high octane, super fun for me. You have a lot of things to track and make sure you pop everything once it's available. It's a beauty, man. beauty in the sense that there's a lot of APM involved. I wouldn't call it like super high skilled level or whatever. There's just a lot of things to do. A lot of things come fast and available for you, and it's very, very explosive. I think from everything that I played so far, I don't know, maybe Enhancement Shaman can rival that with the explosiveness, or maybe Fury, but there's nothing quite really like Outlaw Rogue in terms of like gameplay, because of its mechanics and having access to your major cooldown so fast. And not only your major cooldown, but things that are on cooldown, they get faster than any other class in the game. It basically becomes a playstyle of being aware and tracking stuff, and also prioritizing what you need to be present. Because imagine a spec having all of its abilities available, right? With no cooldown. That's how it feels. I mean, in between doing mechanics, jumping all over the place and pressing 3 or 4 buttons to do some damage, oh, there's another shit that's available. Oh, there's another shit that's available.
Whack-a-mole.
It's amazing. That being said, Rogue also gives me access to like my first love out of the Rogue spec, which is Subtlety, Assassination there as well. So I have access to something that I really loved, like playing all the way to Dragonflight, Alpha, Beta, and to the present. So for me, it's a win. There was another contender for my main going into like, you know, mythic progression and keys and all of that. But we're going to talk about that on the alt section, because, you know, this is the mains are Preservation Invoker, Outlaw Rogue. Well, for me, I can change the specs depending on what the kill needs.
I was gonna say, like, I cannot really go Devastation because I'm not my role is set as a healer. Obviously, I'm gonna play Devastation as well. And it can kind of be considered a null, but it's basically an off spec, which I'm always gonna have ready. Also, I'm, you know, I've said it before, I'm the play the class type player, not play the spec type player. So I always, you know, dabble into all the other specs of the class.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, if the guild would need me to like change to a spec or a specific spec, or have like a super single target boss where we need like all of that damage, and then probably, you know, an assassination might do the trick or anything like that. But just to round it up, I kind of fell in love with how they did the talents for Rogue, like for all of the 3 specs. It was very, I was very jealous of the Rogue spec, because, you know, going in with Paladin was like, man, this looks so good.
Quite a difference.
Yeah, and they did super nice changes to all the 3 specs. They're all looking pretty cool in their capacities and their niche gameplay styles. Maybe Subtlety is a little bit in more need of its identity or uniqueness, but they have addressed that as well. Assassination just got buffed, and it looks like it can do very good AoE as well, which was always kind of an iffy thing for them. And Outlaw is just like the most rolled the
all of it with the most
everything, everything in between. There's a lot, and its talents are amazing. The synergies are there. Even if it's not going to become meta, I am going to main Outlaw, so I'm not going to switch depending on which spec is the best, unless, you know, the guild asks me to.
Yeah.
But I'm going to main Outlaw regardless of what's meta in raiding or Mythic Plus or wherever. It's just super fun to play. Now let's talk about the alts, because Dragonflight is a very alt-friendly expansion, right? And you don't have a million different things to like gather up. It's basically tier sets, you know, your item level for gearing, then that's it. So alts.
Well, for me, it was a pleasant surprise, because the alt was a very contested spot. Obviously, the first alt that I thought about, if I wasn't gonna main pro warrior, is gonna be pro warrior, or let's say warrior in general, because I really love what they did with the class.
Oh yeah, man.
Then I was like, but Unholy is so good, and Blood is finally fun again, because I didn't like the tier set in Sepulchre, and how it used to play was the general playstyle. And recently I've also discovered that Demon Hunter is finally the class that I've been waiting for. Demon Hunter.
Dude, I saw you like that shit.
Vengeance is finally a tanky tank. Doesn't feel like a DPS that can sometimes not die. And Havoc doesn't feel like it's a 3-button spec anymore. And if you still want to meme Havoc, I recommend you play Havoc and tell me what you think about it. But my actual alt is one of the... Oh, we're talking about more than one?
No, the first alt that It's
Oh
going to be
yeah, like the all that we're gonna go into.
The second main, let's call it like that.
I mean, for me, it's like I have like what 12 alts.
Yeah. Well,
So
it's most played, let's say.
Yeah. So what I'm actually gonna be focused on is a class that I fell in love with. It's the first class that I ever made in WoW. It's the class that I've made twice in the classic WoW. The only thing that I played in is the Druid. And I've been waiting to play Druid. I've been waiting to play Druid for years, and I've kind of been stuck with Restoration, kind of like the only spec that was fun over the years. And not to mention that I'm a main healer. Restoration is gonna be, my backup in case my guild needs a Restoration. That's my backup healer for whatever reason. I don't know if we're gonna need to, but it is there.
Yes,
and
sir.
What goes into me choosing Druid is, of course, Bear. It's in a much better spot, and Bear is actually more fun to play. It has a lot more going to it. It's not just like the quote-unquote,
Galactic Guardian, man.
That's also cool stuff, but we have like a lot of. It reminds me more about the Legion Bear that I fell in love with years and years ago. That had so many mechanics going into it, so many passives. It's never gonna be as complex as something like Prop Paladin or Prop Warrior, but it is way more fun, and it's like leagues above Shadowlands and Dragonflight in terms of its design. Obviously, it has probably one or two more problems, although they're starting to fix them pretty well. Feral is also another reason why Druid is so high up for me.
I was expecting you to say because of Feral.
Oh no, Feral is definitely important because Feral, they never really sold Feral to me over the years, so it was never a spec that I got attached to. It was always Bear or Resto.
Yeah.
But Feral right now, I mean, we made so many videos about it, and I think we can both agree it's probably one of the best melee DPS in Dragonflight, period.
Yeah.
In the way that it's designed, the way that it plays, both single target and AoE. And lastly, balance is also a big selling point. I know there are a lot of balance people that are crying right now because whatever nerfs they got, and I mean, I don't know if their nerfs are good or bad. We're gonna see how they adapt. I would be like super stoked and sure that they're gonna balance it eventually. Because balance,
yeah. I see what you did there, man.
It's not gonna do tank level damage, so don't worry about that. But also balance, it all comes down into his design. Like I don't really care that much about numbers, but in terms of his design, the cool mechanics, the rotation, how satisfying it is. Leagues above Shadowlands as well, where if you remember, if you've played the first season of Shadowlands, where balance was also a meta spec, in dungeons, at the very least, you would ignore like half of your toolkit because that's just how damage was dealt. And that felt like very egregious and very bad. But now balance feels like everything that you do is important. Every spell that you have is important. And I mean, that should be baseline for any class in spec.
Yeah,
but
that's rewarding. Putting
all of this, and not to mention Resto Druid is also really fun, and I always love Resto Druid. Is one of the heroes that I play most when we do arenas and stuff.
Yeah, beautiful.
I have very little reasons not to play Druid, and if we wouldn't have had Evokers coming up in this expansion, I would have probably main Druid.
Yeah. I was thinking because it was all the argument about the bear. The bear looked promising at the beginning, then they fucked it up. And now it's looking great again. So I knew that Flame would have been planning on maining Druid and specifically Bear, and then he fell in love with Feral, and for some reason he loves KFC.
Just more and more on top of it, right? It's like they never stop. It's pretty cool.
So for me, when I was initially what I wanted to main, and it's still like very close up there. There's no secret. It's Unholy Death Knight. I have never played Death Knight up until that point in my life, and once I started getting it and understood how it works, I just fell in love with it, man. The whole mechanics of how to like manage your resources and pair up your cooldowns and use these abilities, plus the whole fantasy of just placing rots and pustules and
like the zits, huh?
Yeah, the zits and all of that. Not to mention, the whole pet fantasy. I really dig that stuff, and I feel like they did it pretty awesome. Once again in Dragonflight, because Gargoyle is working now beautifully. You have like the Magus, as it's a talent over there as well, summoning that bad boy up. Obviously Army, the Dark Transformation. All of those are just like so cool to see, and the fact that they're rewarding to press and they have an impact in your damage is just exquisite. I fell in love with it because, again, I have never played a spec where you have like 3 different resources to manage. I feel like that was always the case. Granted, in Dragonflight, it's not as restrictive as it was in Shadowlands, because I started playing it in Shadowlands just get the feel of it, right? As in parallel, I played on the alpha and the beta, and it was very different because in Shadowlands you were kind of restricted. You had downtimes from time to time, and you kind of like really paired up to the second cooldowns for it, right? as opposed to Dragonflight, where you still do that, but not as restrictive. It flows much smoother in Dragonflight, and I can foresee a lot of people playing Unholy DK as mains just because how the talent tree is built up, how everything works together, and how you can either go for a wound build, like, you know, make super giga AoE stuff, or you can go for a single target build, which will work tremendously as well. Dead Quell does a lot more damage. As I mentioned earlier, you have Gargoyle over there, which is very impactful, and all around the fantasy of it is way more rounded as opposed to Shadowlands. Shadowlands was cool in and of itself, but it had problems. Okay, Unholy DK had some problems. I mean, if you like want to get familiar with it, you can always watch Biceps Pump, who I feel like has the most informative and relative content for Unholy DK. Beginner to advanced, really good. I learned a ton from his videos, so you can check him out. YouTube.com/bicepspump. We have podcasts with him as well. You gotta know.
You've seen Biceps.
But this was my struggle, right? So I had Unholy DK, which I absolutely love.
You were a main Unholy for like 2 weeks before you went into Outlaw, right?
The raids we did for the pre-patch, I made Unholy, and I loved it to the bone. But then I saw a stream with I don't know who it was. I cannot remember. Somebody played Outlaw on the beta. I know I played it. I tested all the rogue specs in the raid testing, but it was so clunky, the lag and everything.
It was a little bit weird at the start.
Yeah, I couldn't really make the thing. But then I saw somebody on a stream. I'm sorry, I cannot remember who it was. And I saw like everything that was beautiful about the spec to begin with, right? Plus more. One of the things that I had like a big trophy about was like, man, I really love Blunderbuss, right? I really love this.
Yeah, that's so cool, man.
And once they made the changes to the talents, and you got Fan the Hammer, it's basically that amped up to 500. I was like, I'm sold, and I tried it, right? So okay, so that let's put it into the pre-patch and
some Clint Eastwood vibes.
Yeah. So after I tried it, I was like, I come to like a crossroads. Like, I love the high octane, tracking everything, being on point with pressing everything that's available Outlaw playstyle, but I also love the management of resources and lining up cooldowns from the DK and just setting up shit to explode everything around you. I love both of this. It was a hard decision to make. But at the end of the day, I stuck with Outlaw, and I'll basically go in parallel with both of them. DK is going to be very, very close. I'm not going to ignore him. I'm probably, if they're going to keep it to their guns, I'm probably going to main Unholy for sure in next season. I decided to stick with Unholy, with Outlaw as opposed to Unholy, because I know Unholy also, as part of the DK spec, also opens up Blood, which I'm very afraid to try out, to be honest. And Frost, which I was never a big fan of Frost, the Death Knight to begin with, as opposed to Rogue, where I have access to specs that I already love and know and could switch to easily if the guild needs to. So this was also a factor in this on deciding. But that being said, this is it. Preservation main and Druid alt. But what would be the spec player? There must be a dominant spec.
One of the reasons why I picked Druid as an alt is because we do like a lot of like keys off stream and stuff.
Yeah, you
stuff
better
like that.
tank that shit, man.
Yeah, because I know you're never gonna play.
Hey, how am I gonna tank with Rogue?
But that's the thing, right? The versatility of Druid. Like, I really, really love all the specs. There's no reason for me to really play Restoration Druid if I have Preservation as a main. But I can definitely see myself DPSing, and I get to choose between two really cool specs to DPS, both melee and range. And if I can finally get my favorite tank in the game, Bear, to actually be good again.
Yeah, I can see it. Yeah, so Preservation and
Bear. Put Bear, it's fine.
But Bear, okay, Guardian Druid. And for me, it's gonna be Outlaw and Unholy DK. With obviously, there's gonna be a lot more specs for us to dabble into, but these will be like the main. Yeah. The two main specs to go like more or less in parallel. Obviously, progression is going to be with Preservation, Outlaw for me, and the rest of the content is going to be Bear Druid and Unholy DK. Now, we're going to play a lot more specs. As I've said, we're going to start getting back into guides and the TLFs with all of the gameplay and the testing being done by us and also by Sun. So it's going to be a lot to take into account in terms of like all of these specs, man.
It's gonna be a fun time, man. Dragonflight is a much better expansion to play all of the specs, and we know what struggles we had to go through with Shadowlands at the beginning, where we had to get all the legendaries and all the covenants leveled and all of the classes. We did have help as well, but it was also still very difficult and tedious. But now it feels like we can finally dive deep into what we love and just like play the shit out of WoW.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But hey, what do you want to main and alt in Dragonflight? Let us know in the comments. I mean, do you want to play Preservation? Do you want to play Outlaw or Unholy or Guardian or something else? Just throw it on in the comments. We're curious to see what the good people of the WoW community are actually interested in playing. It doesn't matter if it's like Mythic Progression, Heroic Progression, Keys, World Quest, who the fuck knows? What are you going to main? But that being said, thank you, Patrons, for supporting the content. As we said in the beginning, now is the time to check that link in the description and see what Patreon is all about.
Got goodies. And thank you for watching the video, and we'll see you in the next one.
All right, have a good one. Bye.
I've been loving it then, I still love it now. Still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. Getting better every day, let me show you how. Cause still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. It's getting harder to stay, but at the end of the day, it's a guilty pleasure, so just log in and play. Whether it's classic or retail, I'ma do a /bow. Still, I play WoW.